Let's talk about one of the biggest, most expensive problems in business today. It really all comes down to a single, pretty shocking number: 95%. Just let that sink in for a second. That is the failure rate of enterprise AI initiatives. All that money, all that talent, all that incredible promise, it ends here. And look, this isn't just one study. You've got MIT, Boston Consulting Group, S&P Global. They're all pointing to the exact same brutal truth. We are living through the greatest technological revolution in human history, and somehow it is collapsing inside our own companies. And this is where it gets really weird, right? This is the paradox. AI budgets are absolutely exploding. We're hiring chief AI officers left and right, and yet CEO dissatisfaction is actually going up, and more projects are just being abandoned entirely. I mean, it just forces you to step back and ask a really uncomfortable question. How is this possible? How can the most powerful technology we have ever created be producing the absolute weakest return on investment in modern business history? What this looks like in the real world is a corporate graveyard, just filled with the ghosts of great ideas, proofs of concept that went nowhere, innovation labs that produced nothing, task forces, roadmaps, you know the drill. But we have to be crystal clear about something. This is not a technological crisis. The tech works. This is an execution crisis.
And there's actually a name for this now. Analysts are calling it the AI execution gap. It's this growing chasm between what we want to do with AI and what we're actually achieving.
So if we want to bridge that gap, we've got to understand why it exists in the first place. It's time to really deconstruct this collapse and look at the four big systemic failures that show up over and over again. First up is the strategy void. This is where we chase shiny new tech without connecting it to a real business problem. Then you've got the data and technology deficit, basically trying to build a skyscraper on a swampy foundation of bad, siloed data. Third, the governance blind spot, where things like risk and compliance are an afterthought. And maybe the biggest one of all, the human change deficit. We build these perfect models, but the people who are supposed to use them are either unprepared or just plain unwilling. Every single failed AI project leaves behind fingerprints, and you know what? They are always the same. Now, I know what you're probably thinking. Hold on, we have tools for this stuff. And that, right there, that is a very dangerous illusion. Yeah, sure. We've got our readiness surveys, we've got roadmap templates and ROI spreadsheets, but these aren't systems that work together. They're just artifacts, disconnected pieces of a puzzle. And that's the heart of the problem. These tools are great at telling you what's wrong. They can diagnose the issue, but they have zero teeth. They can't enforce the discipline you need to actually fix the issue. This all feeds into this huge economic blind spot, something we call the fallacy of funding. It's kind of this field of dreams mentality, you know? This belief that if you just build the cool tech, the value will magically show up. So we throw billions of dollars at it without any real validated logic for how we're going to get a return. I want you to really let this next line sink in for a second. We approve AI like we approve ambition, not like we approve capital. We treat it like this fuzzy aspirational goal, not like a serious financial decision that has to justify its own existence. So when you look at the gap, the consistent failures, the illusion that our tools are working, it leads you to a pretty wild thought. What if the problem isn't actually AI? What if the real issue is that we got so excited about building all these amazing models that we just completely forgot to build the system we needed to govern them in the first place? Okay, let's pivot. Because here's the revelation. The solution to this mess isn't some big secret hidden in a vault somewhere. Actually, the smartest people in the world have been telling us the answer all along. The world already knows the sequence to get this right. You look at Gartner, Deloitte, they all say, start with strategy. Then you've got Guidehouse telling you that you have to assess your readiness. RSM and IBM are practically screaming that you need to model your ROI before you build anything. And Forrester is adamant that you have to bake in change management from day one. The pattern is so clear. Strategy, then readiness, then ROI, then change. Every single expert agrees on this. But here's the kicker. No system out there actually enforces it. And that is the missing layer. See, the market built all these different frameworks, but nobody ever built the execution layer that connects them all. Your strategy deck doesn't talk to your readiness survey. Your ROI calculator has no idea about change management. It's all just living in separate PowerPoints. We built a bunch of fragments, We never built the integration. So just imagine for a minute a totally different way of doing this. What if AI had a pre-execution operating system? A system that kicks in before anyone is allowed to write a single line of code. So what would a system like that actually do? Well, it would force every single project to align with a real business strategy, which closes that strategy void. It would quantify your real readiness, fixing the data and tech deficit. It would demand a rigorous ROI model before anything gets approved, which gets rid of the governance blind spot. And it would orchestrate the discipline needed to finally solve that human change deficit. Well, that conceptual system, that missing piece of the puzzle we've been talking about, it's not a concept anymore. That system now exists. It's called Vexa Stratagem. Now, it's really important to understand what this is. Stratagem is not another assessment or some checklist. It is the codification of pre-execution discipline. It's the enforcement layer that's been missing this whole time.
This is all about bringing controlled power to your AI initiatives. Think of it as the command layer that sits above your models. It's the enforcement mechanism for ROI. It is the bridge that finally gets you across that AI execution gap. And it's the architecture that prevents waste before it can even happen.
This fundamentally reframes the whole conversation. With this, we don't start by building models. We start by earning the right to build them.
And this really brings us to the new competitive reality. The next 3 years aren't going to separate companies based on who adopted AI. It's going to separate them based on who disciplined it.
In this new race, the winners aren't going to be the fastest. They're going to be the most structured. Because let's be honest, speed without discipline is just a much faster way to fail.
So we'll leave you with this final thought. The question for your company is no longer whether you will invest in AI. I mean, that ship has sailed. The real question now is whether you will continue to invest in it blindly.